You're watching and listening to Conscious Evolution Media, shifting global consciousness at consciousevolutionmedia.com.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Kids Talk Foundation, a global nonprofit organization providing youth advocacy, television programming, and training services in the United States, along with comprehensive medical and educational services for the developing world, most recently in Kenya, Africa, where Kids Talk Foundation provides a feeding program, medical care, and educational services to over 1,300 young people each day. Please help our youth and place your donation. Go to www.kidstalk.org.
Are you in the entertainment industry? If you answered yes and you want to promote yourself, your passion, and profession, check out Creative Independent Artist magazines at CIAartists.com. Endorsed by Kids Talk Foundation worldwide.
Hitting the high waves of entertainment, world affairs, and a touch of high society. We bring you the new internet TV show, The Darling Show, with Brian Darling and Ninon de Verderosa. Brian and Ninon will feature hot topics with interesting guests from all walks of life. The anticipation of each show will keep you on the edge of life every week. Here are your hosts, Brian and Ninon.
Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Darling. Thanks for tuning in. I'm here with Ninon de Verderosa, and you're watching The Darling Show. We have such a great show tonight. I'm very excited to have our guest, Lisa Tenner, here from Las Vegas. But before we get to Lisa, Ninon.
Yes, how are you, everybody? Hey, Brian, how you doing?
I'm just great. Tell me what's...
I just want to welcome Lisa Tenner. Lisa Tenner is in Vegas with me, actually. I'm now in Vegas, so this is all very exciting.
I have the two most beautiful women in Vegas on our show today, and I'm so lucky. It's fantastic.
We agree.
So Ninon, tell me what you did the other day.
The other day, it's funny. Vegas is, I'm beginning to understand. I've only been here 12 months a year, that's all. And I've been listening to a lot of people, and they've been saying there's not much for the younger generation here, with the real young ones. You know, there's not really too much. But I'm beginning to find out there's quite a bit here, actually. And I guess what they're talking about are the hotels. You know, they get tired of going to the hotel, so they want to do something else. So I went down. Actually, a good friend of mine is Lena Warther, and Lena Warther is actually the consul of Sweden, and we become good friends, and she's absolutely lovely, and she has two sons. Now, I never know if a mother wants her children to go into the music business, but that's what they have chosen. She has two sons that are so talented. They play in the band. They put their own band together. It's called New Sense, and I was down at this place. It's called Vegas Streets Festival, right downtown in the middle of Vegas. Absolutely fabulous. A place I very rarely go, but it was wonderful. It was outdoors. It was festive. The music was great. And these two kids, Mark Warther and Eric Warther, they were playing in this band, and it was absolutely lovely. So that was kind of my entertainment for the weekend, and I really enjoyed it because you know how much I love the younger generation. So it was great.
Yes. Oh, yes. And I'm sure Lisa has a very, very strong music background, so I'm sure she'll have some commentary on the music business in Vegas.
Well, absolutely.
So that's,
looking at the screen, and I'm looking at all these awards. My goodness gracious me. That's amazing, Lisa. How are you, Lisa?
Thank you. Hi, I'm fine. Thank you very much for having me on your show. Glad to see you, Brian. Glad to see you, Ninon.
Oh, Lisa, you know, you are all over the world. I don't get to see very much of you anymore. You're in the Bahamas, and you just went to Cuba. And gosh,
last week I was in New York. Next week I'm in LA. Then I come back, and then I go to the Bahamas. Then I go back to New York. So it's just a big circle.
Listen, I want to find out a little bit, Lisa, with all these travels. Cuba. What were you doing in Cuba, and what was that? That must have been an incredible experience.
It was really interesting because as an American, we're not allowed to go in and visit, but if you live in the Bahamas or Europe or South America or anywhere other than America, you're allowed to go in without, you're allowed to go in and you don't need any requirements to go in. But because we have a home in Freeport, Grand Bahama Island, we went in through Nassau and we went into Havana over Christmas. We went Christmas Eve, Christmas, the day after Christmas, and came home the following day. We were there 3 full days. And I have to tell you, it's a very unique, um, into itself, country and environment. What I liked about it very much is that it stopped in 1958. We went to the Tropicana club one night after dinner, and I'll tell you about the dinner because it was really interesting. And the costume stopped in 1958. The music was from 1958. The dance steps, Brian, you know I love the dance. 1958. They would never make it on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, it stopped in 1958.
That's
Well,
really great. That's amazing.
no, they don't know anything beyond that. And the second night, we went to the Buena Vista Social Club, which was one of the most amazing things in music I'd ever been to. And the performers were, I would say, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I really wanted to get up and dance. And if anybody knows, Brian knows that I love to dance. So there was a really great looking Cuban guy.
Let me ask you a question. What were the
Yes?
people like? What were the reaction of the people to you as an American coming over there, whether they thought you were well-to-do or not? I'm sure you looked very well-to-do and very comfortable. How did they perceive you? Were they nice to you? Were they happy to see you?
They did not know I was American. They could have thought I was Canadian, or I went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I thought I was Italian. We're very cordial. The hotel we were at, the Saratoga, was beautiful. The people are very lovely. There's not a lot for them to do, and so we went on horse and buggy rides around the city, and we basically stayed in Havana. And because we really wanted to go to see the ballet there, because they're so famous for their beautiful artistic ballet company they have, our concierge had told us the ballet would be open on Christmas and Christmas Eve and the day after.
And don't I remember reading somewhere that you started out as a ballet dancer?
I did, with the New York City Ballet, yes.
That's right, yes. A couple of years ago, right?
About 10 years ago. What was really interesting about that is we were performing, George Balanchine had two companies, one in New York City and one in LA. And since I was from LA, my dance teacher's name was Alice Ashford. Can you think of a more appropriate name for a dance teacher? Alice.
And then we had Lisa Tenner come along.
All right. Well, it was Ratner, and then it was Freemer, then it was Rucker, and then now it's Tenner. No more art departments for me. We're done.
Now, Lisa, I met you, gosh, I'm not going to say how many decades ago it was, but quite a number of years. And you were a business manager at that time and very, very prominent in the music industry. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the music industry and how your career evolved at that time.
I'm going to answer that, but I just want to finish Ninan's question about the people.
Sure.
The people in Cuba are very hospitable. And I want to explain this thing. They have a wall around the city called the Malecon. And the kids at night, because you were talking about what kids do in Vegas, and you're finding out what they can do now because they're building up the art center downtown in Fremont Street. Yeah. The kids go and they sit on the wall at the Malecon because the parents know it's safe, and it faces north, interestingly enough, towards America, because they think that's hopeful. But it was a really beautiful country. The people were lovely, and I was treated extremely well. So it didn't matter wherever I was, from Nebraska or Vegas or Nassau or the Bahamas. They didn't care. They treated us all very well.
They're probably very happy to see you.
They were. They were very, very helpful and lovely, and the food was spectacular, and we can go back to that. Brian asked me the question of how I started in the music industry. Jesus, gosh, I hate to date myself, but Brian,
sorry,
this will really date it. I always loved music. My mother took me to my very first concert, which was the Animals, back when Dick Clark had his show, and when Lloyd Thaxton was very popular in this maybe late 60s, early 70s. And I was really, really, really young. I can't begin to tell you how young I was. And I knew that I never could carry a tone. I didn't have great tonality, and I didn't have musicality, but I really appreciated what it took to get on stage and be a performer. So I worked for a promoter named Louis Gray, and in the 70s, Louis had all the big black acts. He had Earth, Wind and Fire, Taste of Honey, the Parquets, Prince. I mean,
Oh, you're
he had,
talking my language now.
okay, he had a lot of them, and Chaka Khan. And Lewis is no longer with us, but I knew all of the promoters he dealt with, and he said to me one day, Lisa, I want you to put a showcase on. I'm thinking of taking out this one group, XYZ group, out on tour. And I said, okay. I didn't know what a showcase was, but I acted as though I would, because really you have to pretend you know what you're doing in order to get the job done. So I rented a music space, you know, like a rehearsal hall, invited all the labels down, and we put on our first showcase. I said, well, this is pretty easy work. And I stayed with Lewis, and I learned about promotion and touring and what it takes to get on the road. I also know that you had to pay your taxes as you played a city. You pay
Oh,
put
yeah.
it aside for the taxes. So when I decided to leave Lewis as a promoter and go into business management, because I thought I would like the business side of working with the artists, and that was working with their finances and maybe assisting the managers with the artistic directions of the clients and which tours they're going to do and when's the best time to tour and what are we going to do with merchandise and where are we going to monetize the brand of the artist. I went down a law firm, and at the time of the firm, I think it was called Epstein. It was I'll tell you what was in it. It was oh my God, it was an old firm in Beverly Hills. They no longer exist, but it was a music law firm and film law firm. And I ran down the hall screaming, does anybody need an accountant for a band? Does anybody have an audit? Does anybody have anything for a music?
And this is what you were looking for, right?
I was running down the halls.
But wait a minute, I just want to back up one little bit here, because if I read something here as well, that you were also, you performed in the American Idol. So let's not skip over this music thing. What did you do in American Idol?
Well, I didn't do anything in American Idol, so I don't know where you're getting that one from. But
oh, well, it's here somewhere. I'll find it, and I'll tell you where it was. It was one of them anyway.
No, I bet on it. It's what
oh, that's you bet on it. Okay.
Lisa, let's fast forward a little bit to the music conference.
She wants to finish off her accountant.
Okay.
Because I want to know if she got the job or not. Did you get a job?
Okay. So Alan Groden was one of the attorneys in, it was Cooper, Epstein, and Hurwitz. Jay Cooper, Hurwitz, and Epstein. And one of the attorneys said, do you know anything about audits? I said, well, audit happens to be my expertise. I actually know everything that there is to know about audits. They go, okay, great, come on in. Here's the tubes. It was Fee Waybill and the rest of the band sitting there, and they interviewed me and they hired me. And that was my very first client in the music business. And from that, I got Toto. And when the Toto was nominated for 8 Grammys, so this is back in 84, because I was pregnant with my son. I went to the Grammys and we sat in the 8th row, and because we were nominated for the most Grammys, we got the greatest seats, and I sat with the band, I sat with the managers, and we won all 8 Grammys. So we were treated like royalty. I went to every party, we went to Columbia's parties, we went to every party there was. I said, this is a kind of a really cool business to be in. I think I'll stick with this business because I like it. Now, needless to say, Toto never made another album. Steve Vaccaro has gone on and has had great success creating music for shows that are on HBO or Showtime, because I see his name pop up every once in a while. And that was the beginning of me collecting and going after the bands and the artists and the groups. And I also worked with other business managers, to answer your question, Brian, because they knew I was very good in audit. I got the tubes out of an audit. They owed no money when I was through with them. And they had this writing on their back for years, and I think presentation to the IRS was very helpful.
What was your inside look now? You've seen all these bands, and you know that the music industry is a very, very different industry. What did you see in it that was so different? And so I know the parties and all the activity, but the actual rehearsing and the band and the people in the band, what was that like?
Well, let me think about that for a moment, because I can answer it many ways, but
just one way.
Well, there's so many ways in which to look at it. There is so much work that goes into creating an artist, from the artist having to write the music, because if the artist can't write, the artist really can only make their money by live performance, by touring and merch. because the way the money's come into the band, it's split in two parts. Part for the publisher and part for the and part for the mechanical royalties, meaning how many units have we sold. And there was a big paradigm shift in 2002, and we went from selling CDs and albums, which we still sell, but now we really work on download. So where a band would sell an album or a unit, we call it a unit, for $11.99, $12.99, $13.99, whatever it was going to be. The artist got...
Yeah, now that's all very difficult, very different now how it's done, right?
They got about 17.5%. Now, when you download a single at 99 cents, the artist only is seeing about 17 cents. So there's a big shift. And so more festivals...
Got to sell a lot of downloads.
You have to sell tons of them. So now the A&R departments, which is artists and repertoire, in the whether it be Sony or whether it's Warner Brothers or BMG, and they've really kind of condensed, because Brian, when you and I worked together, there was like 18 different...
Lots of different companies, yeah.
Now there's 3. And right now, the television shows, The Voice, X Factor, American Idol, they've become the A&R departments, because you can see Jimmy Iovine sitting in the audience on American Idol, and if there's a decision to be made, Jimmy Iovine is making it. Why? Because most likely American Idol has got a deal with Jimmy Iovine to sign their artists there that win. I think they may have first right of refusal. I mean, that's what I did with my show. I had a show.
So listen, are they all very incognito, sort of all much together of what they do? Because you said there's only 3 really hot groups now. No, 3 agencies now.
3 major labels.
3 major labels, yeah.
It's like there are brokerage firms. I mean, you have Schwab and you have...
So they're very interlocked. They're very interlocked of all what they do.
Right, because Hollywood Records really doesn't even exist anymore. And Hollywood Records had Selena Gomez and a lot of the younger artists. That's part of the Disney family with Hollywood Records. So they have more or less consolidated, like banks have consolidated and car companies and airline companies have consolidated. The music industry is also very consolidated. So it's much more difficult to answer Brian's question for how does an artist get developed? How do you monetize the artist? How is the artist seen and heard? And quite honestly, it really helps if their music is in a soundtrack of a movie that's going to be very popular or even not too popular. But if it's in a soundtrack, they're going to get more exposure. If there's a promotion on the web and the artist can, submit music in, they have music festivals. Right now, we have South by Southwest going on in Austin, and there's maybe 900 bands down there. And Brian, I did EDM in Vegas.
Yes, I want to hear a little bit about that. Lisa, you really kind of, you were a trailblazer in Vegas in the music industry. You put this whole big thing together, and next thing I know, there's awards coming your way, and there's thousands and thousands of people coming to this EDM music conference. That's where we met when I lived in Vegas, and you really built this thing from scratch. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I was so proud of you. I was at South by Southwest on a panel, and then I went to the ladies' room, and my girlfriend Suzette Becker, who's a very famous attorney in or Suzette Toledano now, she goes by, lives in New Orleans. We were sitting there. I said, Suzette, I just think I could do it better, bigger and better and bolder, and make it a little bit more intimate, because there's so many artists. How do you see all these artists over a period of 1 week? It's nearly impossible. So I was in the ladies' room, and I said, everybody in the ladies' room had me $3,000, and I started basically with something between $16,000 and $18,000. Went to the city of Vegas. They helped sponsor it. Went to the Desert Inn, because that's where the Wynn and the Encore sit now. But at one time, that was the Desert Inn. I miss
the Desert Inn. Oh, what a lovely, lovely property that was.
Wynn and
that was down by the Sands, wasn't it? That was the Sands Hotel down there. But that was the Sands. And then you called this emerging artists and technology in music, right?
I started that with my neighbor. Actually, I started it, and then I brought Sue and David Cassidy in, because Sue knew, as a songwriter, she was very familiar with the the publishers. My strength was promoters and agents and labels. And what we were able to do over a course of 3 days is have about 300 speakers, and we covered all sorts of topics ranging from a producer's panel with Bob Ezrin. And when an artist came up and had a question, Bob Ezrin, who is a very famous producer, he produced all the Pink Floyd records ever made. He's an amazing man. He would say, this is a producer's panel. You'll sing your question. It brought tears to people's eyes. So what would happen is we would collectively pull in about 300 speakers, about 10 keynote speakers, ranging from Ahmet Ertegun when he was alive. Our first keynote speaker was Sir George Martin, and I said, one day, Sir George, you're going to have a show on the strip. He goes, oh, no, I'm from England, and I don't think that they Martin not be here. And yet he's got love sitting at the Mirage right now. So after we did Edom, and we did it from 98 to 2002, and then there was a paradigm shift, and I said, well, I never took a piece of any of the artists. I didn't take a piece of them getting signed, none of their publishing, because I really wanted to hold on to my integrity with the artists. And to this day, I still get no less than 25 emails a week saying, when's the next Edom? Well, I haven't done it in 12 years. But there's
so it's about time you did one. So come on. Get the energy together again. Come on, I'll help you. Brian will help you. We'll get it together.
Well, now she's moved on. You've moved on to other things.
Well, we'll also find out
a little bit of poker there. I want to hear about. I want to hear about the poker too. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's put it all in gaming.
How'd you transition from music to poker?
Wasn't it the same, a big gamble? No.
I guess. Well, I guess it is. But Lisa, you're
is going to be when you're playing a hand of poker. You could have 2 aces, and the guy across from you has a 2 and a 3, and the flop can come 2, 2, 3, and he's got a full house, and your aces are cracked or over with. It's still,
it's a story. You're right.
It's a big old mind game. Big old mind game.
What happened in 2000? Party poker was beginning to start up in the online space. In the gaming world. But when you start a new company, and it doesn't matter if it's social media, it doesn't matter if it's your show, it doesn't matter if it's making cups, you have to have something that's very signature so that people can remember it. If I say to Ninon, oh, please hand me a tissue, I would never say that. I would say, please hand me a Kleenex. You have to brand it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
So what happened is we were sitting in my house with some very prominent people within the poker industry, and I won't mention their names, very prominent, they're all very well known, and they came up with, okay, if we're going to launch this site Party Poker, we need to have a signature event. And they came up with the Party Poker Million. It kind of rolls off the tongue, it sounds really good, and no one had ever offered $1 million prize pool at any time on an online space, an online site. And what they did is they did it with my husband's company, Card Player Cruises. So they chartered the ship, and people would play on the satellites. It was very legal at that time online. It's still legal to play online in Europe.
Sweden.
You can only play for play money in the United States. And the pilot that they did in 2000 for the Party Poker Million became the pilot for the World Poker Tour, starring Mike Sexton and Vince Van Patten. And that is still on the air. We're into its 13th season. So that was created in our media room right next to
So you created all that as well?
I was part of it, but it wasn't.
Where do you get these creations from? I mean, you can't pick them out of a hat. You just suddenly, you're so, I guess you're so visual, and you see the vision, and you see the path, you see the whole thing put together, and you're able to yourself put it together, but you also get the people to come in and sort of help you put it together, but you know who you need.
Well, I did on Edom. I knew who I needed to have with Edom. I knew I had to have a very strong board of advisors to give me credibility and to give the city credibility, because after Edom came and left, the Billboard Music Awards came in, the Pollstar Awards came in, VH1 Divas came in, the Country Music Awards came in, the Academy of Country Music Awards came in, American Idol holds its 2 or 3 weeks worth of shooting here now. So I try to give Vegas credibility because Vegas, and before Edom, I would honestly say nobody considered it to be a hotbed of talent or a legitimate city for discovering talent. And I literally had artists stepping off stages and getting signed to labels as they stepped off the stage. And these artists were broken up. All pop was on one stage, all rock was on one stage, all ska was on one stage. We had Russell Simmons Hip Hop Summit as part of our conference. So urban was being signed as quickly as country was being signed. Taking those skill sets and moving it to gaming is no different. It had to be different. It had to be unique. It's like Gypsy Rose Lee said it best. You have to have a gimmick. So it's not necessarily that I'm so bright, because I'm not. If you surround people and people of integrity, when they work collectively together and they can take my direction. No, I'm kidding you.
I'll take your direction anytime. Are you kidding?
Then you're going to be able to come up with your signature events that you need. And Party Poker is now BWin Party, and they're still in business. They're very successful. Their biggest competitor is Poker Stars, and I worked for Poker Stars, and I worked for Party from 2002. They were my client from 2002 until October. I think it was around October 13th, 06, when online gaming got a shutdown in the United States, and it was called Black Friday.
Yeah, I remember that.
Party was a public company, so we went dark that day, and a couple of the other sites stayed open, and they shouldn't have, but they did, and they've now all paid their fines and whatever was required. I really didn't follow it that closely. But I learned an awful lot from marketing and branding standpoint, because I was
you just kind of fit right in.
I was the consultant for all their branding and their marketing. I mean,
because you knew the business. You knew exactly from A to Z. You knew the business, so anybody would come to you because you actually had all the answers and all what they needed for anyone to sort of see what direction do we go in now, because now all the gambling was taken off the internet, correct? They're trying to get it back on again, I believe, but that's not on yet.
It's been on, but it's been for a free site. So you can go to these sites and you can play on Play Money. Even on my iPad, I'll play for, Play Money.
But I think that's great. I think that's great. We can learn. I watch the World Poker Tour all the time, and I get some tips. And then I go drive down to one of the local card casinos in Los Angeles, and I make a lot of money, and then I come home.
You're talking about Commerce Casino and the Bicycle Club. I know where you're going.
That's right. Ladies, before we continue, ladies, I would like to say hi to our viewers on Blog TV. We are being featured right now. So hello, Blog TV. Nice to have you with us. Sorry about that, Lisa.
No, I have to introduce them.
But I'm a recreational poker player, let's say.
I want to tell you, the world of recreational poker players is about 50 million.
Yeah.
So you're blown out there, and it used to be a very small number 12 years ago. So, I mean, we could call Mark in here and he could actually tell us the numbers, but it's, people from all walks of Hollywood have Hollywood home games on Wednesday night or Thursday night. They have their friends over and they'll play it. You see it on Real Housewives of blah, blah, blah city and this one, and
yes.
It's everywhere. And I think it's a really good educational tool for kids to learn how to play. Because it teaches them about math and about scale, and more importantly, about reading. And I wish I learned to read people just a little bit better than I was able to read them in the last couple.
I think you read them pretty well. Now, what's going on in the Bahamas? You just won an award over there, didn't you? You just did a big event there.
I didn't win an award, but what I did do is I was hired by the Grand Lucayan to rebrand it and relaunch that property. And what I did is I brought over Clint Holmes, who's a headliner in Las Vegas. Now I don't know, Ninon, if you've seen him, but he's at the Smith Center.
I have seen him. I know him well. Well, I don't know him well, but I know him. Yes, a wonderful man.
I love him. I took some of the American Idols, and I took Prince Poppycock, Brian.
Oh yes.
Over there as the entertainment, because the budget they gave me to work with was this big and I needed this big. But they did it for me. A lot of them did it as favors. And it was really a beautiful event. It just wasn't heavily advertised.
We've come kind of to the end of our show.
Where does the time go? Lisa, we're going to have to, will you come back and join us again? We have so much more stuff to talk about. We've got to bring Lisa on again.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. I had such a fun time.
Thank you so
what
much
was your
for being here.
website again where they can reach you, Lisa?
Oh, they can just call my cell.
I'll call you back in 10 minutes, I know.
I'll call you in 10 minutes. I'll call you back in 10 minutes. What's the title, Brian? I'll call you back in 10 minutes or call me back in 10 minutes?
Call me back in 10 minutes. ... Click. That's all you need to say. I'm serious.
Find yourself
that's it. You don't need to, that problem solved.
Okay. My website is www.tenner, TENNER, ANDASSOC.com. So they can see what I branded, what I do, my pictures of my family, everything's up there. Doesn't matter.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa. And we've unfortunately come to the end of our show for this week. But until next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, we'll be back with you then. For now, on behalf of Ninon de Vere de Rosa, thank you, Lisa Tenner, and everyone have a great night.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Good night.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Brian. Bye, Ninon.
Bye.
Watch the Maxed Out Money Hour Internet TV show program All About Money with your hosts Ninon and Coach Steve every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central at realcoachingradio.net.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Kids Talk Foundation, a global nonprofit organization providing youth advocacy, television programming, and training services in the United States, along with comprehensive medical and educational services for the developing world, most recently in Kenya, Africa, where Kids Talk Foundation provides a feeding program, medical care, and educational services to over 1,300 young people each day. Please help our youth and place your donation. Go to www.kidstalk.org.
You're watching and listening to Conscious Evolution Media, shifting global consciousness at consciousevolutionmedia.com.